Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Kamga. If we haven't met yet, I am a creative, and on this channel I make videos about stuff that I think would help you not make the mistakes that I made when it comes to creativity, building relationships, and overall my journey on building wealth and freedom. If you haven't watched the previous video I talked about, the part one of this video, I'm going to put the link right up here. I will require you to pause, just stop, watch the video, and then come back. In the first video I talked about my journey from wanting to become a doctor to finally graduating at the advanced level with 4 grades, A, B, E, D. Watch the video and then come back. Cool? Cool. Advanced level. The advanced level is like, I don't know what the American equivalent is, but it's basically the exam you do before you go to college. What we call university in Cameroon is what we call college in the US, and probably, university in the UK. But then you write the GCE, General Certificate of Education, advanced level. That's what we call it, the A level, basically. So in Form 5, what I wrote was the O level, where I got 6 A's and 5 B's, and then chose to do either arts or science. If you watch the video, you know. And then in this one now, this is where you do science. So it's clear you're doing just science. You finish with points. And A grade is 5 points, and E grade is 1 point, and it decreases from A to E. And this is where the fun stuff happens, because just so you know, I've met my wife, and then she just left the country. So for the next couple of years, this is me figuring out what I want to do. And that's when I go to college for the first time. And if you've watched the video I talk about the past 2 years of being in the US, you remember what I talked about my friend Domin that I was talking to. That is where I met Domin. Moved to the University of Boya, and I loved that first year. I was by myself. I had my own room. I got to do a lot of things, and maybe one day I'll make a video about why it's important for people to actually leave home, especially African kids, to actually have their own place. I moved to the university to study biochemistry. Why? Because I failed every single medical exam. Why did I want to write a medical exam when I didn't want to be a doctor anymore? Remember, in the video I explained why I wanted to be a doctor, and then now I'm sitting here with a science diploma and no options to do any art subjects, because the University of Boya requires you to have points and subjects that match the upper degree you want to make. For example, if you want to be a lawyer, you need to have a diploma that shows that you did some economics, geography, and a bunch of other things that are not exactly biology, chemistry, and physics. The big difficulty that I had for that first year was that I was lost and confused, and I never told anyone. That is the second mistake. The first one, remember the other video, was choice. Choice was the first big thing. Having the ability to choose between anything. Sometimes it looks like it's great, sometimes it's not. The second was letting this eat at me without actually voicing this out as constructively as possible and getting opinions from other people ahead of me. Because all I did was bury my feelings, put my head down, and struggle to keep going.
Stop it. Get some help.
And for that first year doing biochemistry, I was struggling to adapt to a new town, away from home, by myself, managing my finances, something that I've never done, cooking for myself, which I had never done before that because I was either in boarding school or at home. A lot happened for me during that first year. That's 2007, 2008 at the University of Boya. But the end of it, the very end of it, was one of those key moments in my life where I can remember standing on the bridge with my dad and him being extremely disappointed in me for a very simple reason. I just never did my final year exam. I carried this pain and struggle and confusion in my heart for so long that I just stopped taking action. I stopped going to school. I stopped writing my exams. I stopped talking about anything. I would just sit quiet and swallow it. And that, my friend, is the second biggest mistake you should never make when you're facing a difficult, tough decision. Don't swallow it. I learned that the hard way. I wasted a year just confused and not knowing what to do. By the end of that year, it was very clear that I didn't go to school. I wasted my parents' money. I wasn't having any job. In Cameroon, kids don't exactly have jobs. At the end of that year, I had to come to a realization of I need to do something different. I still wasn't ready because it would take me a long time to get ready. I still wasn't ready for what would follow after that. But then some fate happened. My mother had a friend whose son was at the university at the time that I was, and he was studying medical laboratory science. My friend was Carol. My mother heard about this and she said, hey, why don't you write the entrance exam? And remember, I'm actually pretty smart. I'm just not very motivated when I'm doing something I don't like.
You talking to me?
I got that and I started. And for the next 4 years, the program was 4 years. The first year was amazing. I felt like I had a second chance to make a first impression. I had failed biochemistry. I was confused about what I wanted to do. And I still had this thought that I can still succeed doing this. So the first year was easy. I was going back to university for the second time. I wasn't making the same mistakes as the first one. I learned a lot. I reduced my choices. I talked with people. I had these conversations. And I did pretty well for the first year. The second year, reality hit. We went to a field assignment, and I found out that I enjoyed talking to the people more than I enjoyed taking blood samples. And that still didn't register. And that is mistake number 3. First was choices. Second was keeping your hurt to yourself. And the third was not listening to your gut. I did not listen to my gut. I did not actually allow myself to realize I don't like drawing blood. I don't like chemicals, equipment, science, experiments. I enjoy the idea of it, the theory, the talking to people, but I don't want to be in a lab. But I never listened. And I would let the years go by and struggle until the final year. I actually had to repeat the third year twice because I still thought that if I only pushed through and I only kept trying, I would finally succeed.
Never give up!
I was wrong. At some point, I had to eventually give up the idea that I wanted to push things forward. So, 2011, just a highlight on this. I'm not able to merge these two stories well, but I broke up with my wife 2.5 times during this period. First time was when I was biochemistry leaving then, and second time was when I was actually getting into my first year of journalism. How did I get into journalism? In that third year, I came home, and that was probably one of the most traumatic events in my life because I had my parents distraught. I've never seen my parents feel so terrible about life like that time. As a child, the last thing you want to do is have your parents look at you and then you can feel that they are not pretending to be upset. They're not trying to, rile you up and get an emotion. They are genuinely and completely broken by something that you did, and you're completely wrong. That hurts. It changes the way you look at the world. And for me to come back home after that year, 2010, after struggling with medical laboratory science and come to the point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I came home. My mom asked me, what do you want to do? Looked her straight up and I said, I don't know. And that, I would say, is number 4. Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith because it ties in what happens next. In 2011, I found James Altucher on the internet. James Altucher showed me something that was impossible for me to even imagine by myself. This guy writing about his relationships, writing about his failures, writing about how he lost money, how he's losing money, how he was an addict, game addict and gambling and all that. How he was able to build his life from the ground up, and he's able to write in a way that is self-deprecating, but not in a way that makes you feel bad about him. You can see somebody who is owning up to his mistakes, being responsible. And that lit a fire in me, coupled with the fact that I was a writer. I started my blog in 2012 following that. That was when my blog actually began my writing on the internet. My journey to being what you're seeing right now began as a result of me imbibing a lot of the things that James Altucher expressed. Somehow, this is one of the things I cannot explain. This is one of the things I know is God who just put the idea in my mind. I thought of journalism. I thought of the idea, oh wait, I could do journalism. I literally don't know how this came about, but I thought that I could do journalism. And then I made a phone call. And so I'm going to end this video here because from that phone call to the time when I finish my next degree program, it's another journey with a lot of things I would like to add about relationships and things. But yeah, let's end this video here for part 2 of how I dropped out of college 3 times. And you'll find out in the part 3 about the rest. So I'm actually excited about these videos, and let me know in the comment section if you're liking this or not. But if you haven't watched part 1 yet, it's going to be on the screen. And by the time I make this video, part 2 is already out. I'll also put it in the card so you can watch it. But I'll see you in the next video. Take care, my friend. Bye.